Vandals made it just past this gate.
This is NBC Palm Springs.
And good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gino Lamont.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez.
Top in our news tonight, you're looking at cell phone video of a group of people in off-road motor vehicles on private property and at one point vandalizing that property. This is Edom Hill, the communications hub for the entire Coachella Valley, and this is where TV and radio station towers sit. But there's also equipment there that belongs to the Sheriff's Department and the FAA. Important equipment for public safety. Our Nico Payne is live near Edom Hill with a look at what exactly is going on at the top of our local mountain. Nico, good evening.
That's right, Gino. This gate you see behind me is the gate that the ATVers made their way around. And the equipment they destroyed ranged from solar panels to special wireless equipment. But before they got away, these vandals were captured on camera. This video captures one of the vandals in the act throwing rocks at a camera.
About 12:50 to 1 o'clock a.m. we had about 4 people show up in 3 different all-terrain vehicles, and they decided to vandalize one of my cameras back there to the point where they started chucking rocks at it, broke it, and snatched the camera.
Gilman says he wants the people who destroyed his camera to pay, and he's not the only one.
I got a notification saying that there was no internet up here at our site. So I knew there was something wrong. So I started checking it out, and none of my equipment was responding.
JAG came to find that close to $2,000 worth of his equipment was destroyed, including solar panels and cameras.
There's a camera right up there, and they threw it from that area because it came over, hit this, and then just bounced out.
Edom Hill is a communication hub for many communication towers for various companies, including NBC Palm Springs. So I asked, who's in charge of patrolling this area?
Myself and a couple other engineers work with the sheriff's station, and we all work together to try to keep this site as managed as possible.
Gilman says this is not a common occurrence and shares a warning for anyone thinking of doing something similar.
As soon as you actually pull off any of the main roads onto this desert sand here, you're actually trespassing. This place is being watched. The people that we have caught on camera, I've heard their friends laughing in the background saying, ha ha ha, they're watching you and you're gonna get caught. And I just do want to warn, there's a very good chance you guys could get caught.
And we're taking a live look now of the communication towers on Edom Hill. I did reach out to Riverside County sheriffs, and they have yet to comment on this incident. But one thing for certain is that Edom Hill is heavily monitored. Reporting live, I'm Nico Payne, NBC Palm Springs.
All right, thank you, Nico. We've seen a lot of developments here in the Coachella Valley stall or disappear altogether because of the turn in the economy, but a project getting a lot of buzz with a high-profile name attached to it might have some legs. Daytona Everett in studio now with a look at who and what this project involves. Daytona.
Gino, the location is Porcupine Creek, set in the Magnesia Falls neighborhood of Rancho Mirage. It's hosted presidents, professional athletes, and celebrities. The name attached to it, Larry Ellison, billionaire co-founder of the technology firm Oracle. He's responsible for building up the Indian Wells Tennis Garden into one of the premier tennis venues in the world. And now, this. Introducing Porcupine Creek Retreat, the desert's newest proposal. Owners want to reposition the private enclave to a, quote, 6-star exclusive guest experience, so we went to check it out. The property is obviously completely private, so this is the closest we could get to inside. While they didn't allow us on property, they do have something on their website. This is the site plan, and you can enlarge it to see what the property is going to look like after construction. A few of the plans include a new restaurant, a dining deck, spa complex, and 50 units for the exclusive guests. This is an aerial view of what Porcupine Creek looks like right now. The property has historically been a vacation destination for Oracle chairman Larry Ellison, his family, and his guests. It's been a home quarters during the Indian Wells tennis tournament. The tennis gardens are also owned by Ellison. Porcupine Creek has been a golf paradise for sitting presidents like Obama, and most recently, a campaign fundraising site for President Trump. If the proposal passes, the 230 acres would be upgraded to cater to high-end health and wellness enthusiasts. And while the road might be long to get there, owners say the retreat could put Rancho Mirage on the map in a time where they need it most. The city and the owners both declined interviews, but say nothing is set in stone until the environmental impact report has been completed. The website says public comment and hearings could come in early 2021. For NBC Palm Springs, I'm Daytona Everett.
All right, thank you, Daytona. Now to our continuing coverage of the coronavirus pandemic. The U.S. surpasses 150,000 coronavirus-related deaths. Here in California, we set a new record with 167 deaths yesterday. It's the third time this month our state has set a single-day record.
Now to a look at the numbers in Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. Officials reported 249 new cases today in the county. That's the lowest number of daily cases in a week and a half. The Coachella Valley only saw 82 cases. But 10 new deaths were reported in the county, 6 of those from our valley. For some perspective, here's a graph from Riverside County Public Health that shows each day's reported cases. You see it trending upwards through the summer. You can see today's bar, though, is much lower than some of the others. See that spike there? Well, we have recently seen 700 to 800 new cases today, but things looking like they're on the right track. State officials tell labs and clinics they must now include sexual orientation and gender identity in COVID testing reporting. California is the second state to now require this. There are also calls for improvement on race and ethnicity reporting. The Secretary of Health and Human Services says this data will help better serve California's diverse communities. Our Katie Alvarado has more on this new emergency directive.
The state secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mark Galley, announced California healthcare providers and laboratories must now include sexual orientation and gender identity to COVID-19 reporting data.
To effectively see how our interventions are working and what more we need to do in California to not just address the COVID-19 situation, but also to close disparities.
Equality California, a nonprofit LGBTQ civil rights organization, has been advocating for this data to be collected. They praised the state's leadership in this decision. Palm Springs Mayor Jeff Coors, who used to run the nonprofit, says this is an important step in addressing the needs of the LGBTQ community.
It's like trying to address COVID to a community with your hands tied behind your back. You don't have the information to do the work that's necessary.
It's estimated that 40% of Palm Springs residents identify as LGBTQ. Coors says other issues disproportionately affect this community that make it more vulnerable to the virus.
We know that LGBT people, especially LGBT youth, are a way larger percentage. That's a real concern when it comes to COVID. We know they're more likely to be smokers, more likely to have HIV.
He says ultimately the collection of this data will help the state better target and fight this virus.
LGBT people make up every community. There's a lot of intersectionality, and we desperately need to work together to advance equality and justice for everyone.
Kitty Alvarado, NBC Palm Springs.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Well, cooling centers are open, and they've been open since last week. But we are under excessive heat warnings here in the Coachella Valley, and it's only going to get hotter. It is, after all, July in the desert, so it's not shocking news. Still, cooling centers across the valley are ready. And because of the pandemic and social distancing, they're taking extra precautions to help protect the health of everyone involved.
Opens at 4 p.m. and closes at 7 a.m. All of the visitors who come and visitors are welcome to stay overnight. They all receive a screening in regards to any COVID symptoms. Their temperature is also checked. They are given a locker for them to maintain their personal items, and then they are asked to please take a shower.
You can find a list of cooling centers and the hours of operation at NBCPalmSprings.com.
Let's take a look at the Coachella Valley from the top of the tram cam. We're at 8,000 feet above the desert floor. It's in the low 70s, 69, 70 degrees currently. Cool in comparison. The view of the valley certainly looks nice, but it feels like an oven. Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett is here with a look at your forecast. Mike, how's it looking out there?
Sarah, for the second year in a row, the painful irony there is that we can't ride the tram. Remember last year on February 14th, the road to the tramway got washed out. This year with COVID-19 restrictions, we still can't get up there. So it's nice to be able to see it, but it'd be even nicer to be able to get up there. In fact, as we go towards the weekend, you're going to be looking for some cool air. The mountains and the beaches are really going to be the only respite. In fact, I'll show you a whole new round of watches and warnings in a moment here. Take a look at Futurecast. This is a very powerful, strong ridge of high pressure that's setting up right between Arizona and Utah. So what it's doing is it's taking that flow and making it clockwise and keeping anything away from the southwest. You can see that low that's making its way in the Pacific Northwest going well up and over us, and monsoonal flow has basically stopped across the southwest. We're not seeing any showers in New Mexico or Arizona, so if there's a silver lining there, yeah, they're not seeing afternoon thunderstorms, but they're going to get hot as well. We're warm right now, but we fell short of expectations today. We were expecting to be in the mid-110s. 111 is where we topped out. That's where we are right now. Not complaining. Winds coming in lightly from the north, about 5 miles an hour. They'll pick up this evening, get up to about 20-25 miles an hour in our more wind-prone spots, and it's also very dry out there, sitting about 10% humidity. That's normal for this time of year. Take a look at watches and warnings. Well, there's nothing right now, but when I push the magic button, boom, color everywhere. Upgrades for many folks. We have been upgraded now to an excessive heat warning. You remember yesterday we were just in watch status. Well, we kind of saw this coming. When you see the numbers in a moment, you'll understand why. Other thing that I want to make you aware of is now that a lot of folks in the Inland Empire and down towards San Diego will be under a heat advisory as well. We'll see some temperatures that will be in the low 100s in the Inland Empire, and we'll see plenty of 80s and 90s in the mountains. I'll tell you about that coming up as well. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air. Hot on Thursday. Friday, it looks like we're going to cross that 120 mark, and it looks like we're going to take this into the weekend as well. I'll tell you how long the heat wave lasts, and more importantly, when you can expect it to cool coming up.
All right, thank you, Mike. Cathedral City is looking at the possibility of phasing out short-term vacation rentals over the next 2 years. City Council says the phase-out is needed to restore the quality of life in their neighborhoods. Right now, the city has a moratorium on all new short-term vacation rental permits. Council says they'll take it up again August 26th.
How about this? U.S. News and World Report releases its annual hospital rankings. At the top of the list in the Inland Empire, Eisenhower Health in Rancho Mirage. Eisenhower is 20th in the state and is rated high performing in 8 types of care, including aortic valve surgery, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, and hip replacements.
All right, still ahead. Some of the biggest names and, frankly, richest human beings on planet Earth testify before Congress about their business practices as lawmakers question whether Apple and Facebook and Amazon are too big and need regulation.
And taking a live look now, honoring Representative John Lewis. Services are in progress. You're looking at that live picture from Atlanta as the late congressman's home state prepares to say its final goodbye.
When we welcome our viewers here in the West, days away from naming a running mate, has Joe Biden dropped some big clues to his choice? Also, Olympic legend Michael Phelps opening up about his mental health struggles in a way he never has before. When we see you back here tonight.
Welcome back as we take a look at headlines across the country. A military honor guard carries the casket of late Congressman John Lewis. The casket is then loaded aboard a flight from the nation's capital to the capital of Georgia in Atlanta. We're taking a live look now from Atlanta, where people were filing past the congressman's casket all day, but now services are underway tonight. His funeral is tomorrow. It's taking place at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, and that's the same church where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was pastor. MLK inspired John Lewis in his work, and that's where MLK is buried as well.
President Trump is in West Texas, where he took a tour of oil rigs as part of a fundraiser in Midland. The president spoke about a lot of things like hydroxychloroquine to treat coronavirus, despite reports from frontline physicians who say there is zero evidence that hydroxychloroquine fights the virus. Trump cited a series of permits that roll back regulations that encourage investment in energy infrastructure and promote American energy production.
A train derailment and fire triggers a partial bridge collapse in Tempe, Arizona. This is happening over Tempe Town Lake. The train was carrying a load of lumber, and that bridge clearly is out of operation. Right now, the cause of the fire is under investigation. The integrity of the remaining parts of the bridge are still being inspected. We can tell you, though, no one was injured. And when we return, Mike has a look at that forecast. We're getting closer to the weekend and those temperatures. How are they looking, Mike?
They're looking hot, Sarah. In fact, we are tracking a heat wave that looks like it's going to be a few days in duration here. I'll give you the details on that, and we'll take some more looks at those beautiful blue skies when we come back. welcome back. Well, going into the commercial break, I promised you more beautiful blue sky, and voila, there it is, courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino campaigning across the northern end of the Coachella Valley today. Very similar to what we've seen pretty much the entire month of July. No monsoonal moisture out there, even along the tops of the mountains. Here's another gorgeous live look from downtown. Palm trees not really swaying that hard, and as I mentioned earlier, temperatures fell slightly short of expectations today. 111 is where we got to, still about 4 degrees above average, nowhere near the record of 123. We got some interesting conversation to have about records in a moment, but let's see where we touched down this morning. 2 degrees below average. There's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. There, and we're back. 76 in the overnights last night. 78 is what we normally do this third time of year. So here is the big story. 25 years ago today, this was the headline in the Desert Sun, 128 degrees. One small problem. That didn't actually happen. I put a whole thing up about it on my Facebook page. If you want to go to my Mike Everett weather page, I'll tell you exactly what happened there, but that was not the official record. Now, going into the weekend, here's what we're looking at. Palm Springs looks like we'll hit 118 on Thursday, and it looks like we are going to cross that 120 mark as we go towards Friday there. Neither of those will hit records. 119 is the record for Thursday, 122 is the record for Friday. Thermal gets a lot of headlines this time of year. Looks like we're going to tie those records exactly. 118 on Thursday, 119 on Friday. Any way you slice it, it's pretty hot. So here's what we have done. Official records are kept at Palm Springs International Airport going back well over 100 years. 123 is the highest that we have ever officially hit. We've done it several times. In fact, we did it back during that heat spell 25 years ago in 1995. We did it in 1993. We did it in 1979 as well. Now, thermal has been hotter. They've hit 126. In fact, they've done it twice. They did it in 1990, they did it in 1950, and they've also been in the 124 and 125 range a couple of times going back to 1917. But we have never hit 128. Just in case you're wondering, the highest official record is in Death Valley, California, 134, I want to say. Again, it's in the article that I wrote, but even that is shrouded in mystery. Excessive heat warnings will go into place tomorrow morning. They will stay in place until Saturday here in the Coachella Valley. And as I was mentioning earlier, heat advisories now in place for all of the inland areas except the immediate coast, where temperatures will be in the 80s this weekend, and there will be some marine layer cloud cover to keep folks cool. If you're doing the evaporative cooler thing this weekend, no worries at all. It looks like the highest dew points that we'll get will be about 50 on Friday, and that's about 10% humidity, and then those numbers will go down on Sunday. We get dry again, get about 35 as our dew point. Current temperatures right now, 111 in Palm Springs, 116 in Havasu. There's your winner right there. Some 70s along the coast, 72 in LA, 74 in Oceanside. Closer to home, we've got some double digits in the Yucca Valley, 111 down towards Coachella, a cool 79 in Big Bear, and 104 in Cabazon. Those winds will switch around to the northwest tonight and get breezy, and we will cool-ish. 95 by midnight tonight sets us up for some low 80s on Friday, and boom, here comes the heat. It's going to be a warm one. 118 in Palm Springs, 119 in Indio, 107 in Joshua Tree, and your Comfort Air 7-day forecast showing excessive heat through the weekend. I promised you I'd tell you when it cools off. That'll be next Wednesday.
So how big is too big? That was the main question in today's big antitrust hearing as the world's most powerful tech leaders presented their case to House lawmakers who say that tech giants stifle competition and, frankly, threaten democracy itself. Liz McLaughlin reports.
So, Mr. Bezos, this is one of your partners. Why on earth would they compare your company to a drug dealer?
Big tech under fire today.
Do you copy your competitors?
Congresswoman, we've certainly adapted features.
Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple facing accusations that the companies are so powerful they may be monopolies.
It's very clear, very few, if any, of these companies have real competitors in the traditional sense.
Today's hearing, a culmination of a 13-month antitrust probe into the tech giants, with CEOs appearing virtually to testify.
Yes.
All 4 CEOs echoing similar points in defense.
We were convinced that it would be better for the consumer.
They employ more than 75,000 people in the U.S.
That they are job creators, innovators, and have competitors.
Our goal is the best, not the most.
Our services are about connection, and our business model is advertising, and we face intense competition in both.
But lawmakers may not be convinced.
At the very least, I would expect some new regulations to get approved, whether from regulatory agencies or from lawmakers themselves.
Actions that could lead to more extreme measures, such as breaking up America's tech titans. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
The pressure is heightening for these tech companies who also face investigations from the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, and state attorney generals. State attorneys general. Back in a moment. All right, we want to remind you that a QR code that will appear on the screen will get you to all of our social media websites, which will also appear on our screen. And all you got to do is scan it right there off Sarah's shoulder, and it'll take you to all the sites below on the screen there. If you missed some or part of the show, or there's a story you like, you want more information on, or you missed part of it and you want to see it, just scan the QR code and there you go. You can go right to our social media pages. That's going to do it for us now. I'm being told to say goodbye.
Good night.
Goodbye.